Focus New Zealand. Focus New Zealand has an employment strategy that would put $900 million into unemployment over the next 3 years. We don't have to put the tax up to do that. We don't have to poach that off any industries. We simply have to be smarter with how we use the money. Now, Focus New Zealand noticed that $21 billion in the Treasury budgets was allocated for social welfare. In there was $1.7 billion annually used for job seeking and emergency allowance. Focus New Zealand would redirect that money in a more precise way. It seems strange to us that we give someone a dole or the benefit to stay home, and yet we wouldn't allow that same dole or benefit to be used towards a training allowance. Focus New Zealand would change that. Part of our strategy is that we would allow the benefit or the dole to be a contributor to a future employee or trainer. In addition to that, that trainer, if that job was considered to be a course or a career, that job or employer could get the benefit of any tertiary subsidy that would normally go to a university or a polytech. It would streamline the way and bring people into training in a much more precise way. An example is, if you want to have a very clear and easy example, is a large truck is worth $500,000. It is a terrible mistake to put a 18 or 20-year-old in that truck. The majority of New Zealand truck drivers are near the age of 60. They don't like doing the long hours and the hard work, and they'd like to retire, but there are no replacements. Now, it doesn't matter how much tuition you give someone in a school or university, they will never learn that trade, and they will never convince a potential heavy unit owner to pop into the seat. What should in fact happen is anybody with that desire, if you are on the dole under Focus's policy, you could go to some truck industry, some truck driving potential area and say, I have my dole or benefit which can be used towards my wages, will you please train me? They would come out of there after the first 3 years. In the first year, look, you wouldn't even let them touch a steering wheel. They'd ride along and see how the load was strapped down, how the chaining down was done, where you went, how you managed the vehicle, all the good things that come along with proper training. After the third year, there would be no two ways about it that that young person may have driven the truck in the yard, they'd had their licence by now, and so you have, without being too simplistic, a very straightforward, accurate process of training. If that is the case, and you can apply that to any industry, if that is the case, then it is clear to us in Focus New Zealand that the training allowance and the tertiary process should go together. It would actually be a neutral policy cost-wise over 3 years, because these people who take these positions on would pay tax, and we just have a good merry-go-round going on. You cannot give experience at work for work at school or university. You just simply can't do that. The next step is we should identify the job needs of New Zealand. If we were to identify the job needs, then we would know what to train them for. Another strategy that Focus will be using, we will put under the microscope university and tertiary funding. We noticed that $1.48 billion is used by those people, and they're not accountable for putting one person in a job. That would come under the microscope. For the first time in New Zealand's history under Focus New Zealand, instead of the unemployed feeling distressed and agitated, the university professors might feel distressed and agitated as they try to come to terms with a new strategy that Focus would have. And that would be, if you can't train them for our needs, then you should get out of the business. The government has a responsibility to identify those needs for the future. Statistics New Zealand ought to be challenged to supply a chart of the 10 most important future needs of New Zealand's workforce. And any tertiary or university, any of those educating facilities, if they were not targeting those, then it would be a mistake. The new system under Focus New Zealand would allow anybody in any training process to access their tertiary funding. At the moment, a polytech or a university goes for bums on seats. They get a backhand for a bum on a seat, and they have no accountability for that bum ever getting out into the workforce. Focus New Zealand would change that. We would target the 18 to 21-year-olds. We would park the rest. If they're unemployed now, we would not invest further in them. We would park them, and we would concentrate all our energies into 18 to 21-year-olds. There's no question that at the moment there is no strategy by the government to improve New Zealand's employment process. You see on the left of the spectrum, the Greens are quite happy to keep you on a supplement. They're quite happy to keep you on a benefit. In fact, to keep you there, they will poach 7 cents and $1 off the wealthy. The warning that you can give there is how long can you poach that and how long can you keep them on the benefit. Focus New Zealand's strategy is to bring these people into the workforce, change their culture, invest in them. You ought to hear our point of view on education, because all of this is linked together. And the lack of integrity of what I see Focus New Zealand sees out there is very distressing, and there seems to be going in a big merry-go-round. Now you will notice that in the new debates going on, that the current and potential governments are talking about what they're going to do. Look, if it was so good, why the hell didn't they do it last year? You need to ask yourself that question. Focus New Zealand brings a fresh, new, damn direct approach. We just want to get out there and give people the opportunity. Let's not leg trip people with a capital gains tax. Hell, if they're prepared to get out there and mix it in business, they should be encouraged. You're more likely to solve it if you harness the billions of dollars in New Zealand by activating the economy, the billions of dollars that sits in the private sector. That's where the energy for New Zealand will come from. Focus New Zealand. Better to vote. Change now. Vote Focus New Zealand.